Welcome to episode 26 of Created by Design. Thank you for watching today, and I'm going to get you caught up on some random projects I'm working on. Also want to invite you, if you're not on my Facebook site, go to Facebook, and Created by Design is what you're going to search for under my name, Linda Eld. I would love to have you join me on Facebook. It's a great place to post some of your projects, also another way for you to ask questions and join the group. So if you're just watching on YouTube, which is fantastic, I appreciate it. Always remember to hit like and share with friends. I appreciate that. This has been quite a little journey for me. In fact, somebody let me know yesterday that I have actually been doing this for a year. Never had any idea when I started out what I was really going to do with Created by Design, but here I am a year later having fun. I've certainly enjoyed the connections that I've made with really people from all around the world. I've been amazed, and it's been fun for me. It's given me something to do during this COVID season, now that we're still working our way through all of that and trying to find what our new long-term normal might look like. But making these little videos and sharing with you some of my thoughts and ideas has been quite an interesting journey for this old lady. Something new, right? We're never too old to learn new things. So one of the first projects I'm going to catch you up on, if you've been watching, you've heard me talk about Bowsticking, and it's been really very interesting. This book is a terrific book if you like a little bit of history. This is a process that was started in Sweden. I won't go into some of that. I've talked a lot about that in previous issues, but I decided I wanted to make a Bowsticking sweater. Just to remind you, I'm not using the yarn that they actually make for the Bowsticking sweaters. So my sweater really is a Bowsticking lookalike, or knockoff, whatever you want to call it. I'm making it out of cashmere, which I could purchase for really less than half of the price, and I'm sure the other Angora yarn is just fantastic. But maybe someday if I win the lottery, it was going to be very, very expensive for me to get that yarn here to the States. So I'll show you how far along I am. I love the look. The cashmere feels wonderful. So the sweater has a yoke. It actually is a cardigan. I have lots of stitches on stitch holders, and I'm actually now through the color part, the color work part, and I'm working on now the rest of the body of the sweater. This feels really, really yummy. I think it's going to be a wonderful sweater to have. But I've set it aside for a little while now, which kind of is heartbreaking to me, but I had another project I wanted to get done, and I have kind of a goal date, and I'll show you what that project is. But to talk to you a little bit more about the Bowsticking, the cashmere is wonderful, but what it doesn't have is all the close shades of colors to work with. So I don't have the same wonderful blending of colors that are really, really close. And so it does give it a different look. I still think it has a unique look to it. It uses a lot of purl stitches in with the knit stitches, which is quite different than Fair Isle knitting. And so I find that I have to watch the pattern just that much closer. The other thing that is quite different from the typical Fair Isle pattern is if you look close, the designs are not lined up just real symmetrical. They kind of fall in between each other as you go through the cowl part. And that has a unique look unto its own in Bowsticking, whereas in Fair Isle, boy, you're really following lines for the most part in a pattern, and but this does it quite differently, and it has like I say, a unique look of its own for that very reason. I'm loving this sweater. I think it's going to be a terrific sweater to have for wearing here in Oregon. Honestly, some of my Fair Isle sweaters I have to wait till it's really cold weather to wear them. And so I think I'll actually get to wear this sweater just because it's cashmere, a little bit lighter than all lamb's wool. But I'm enjoying it, and I can't really wait to get back to my project with the cashmere. I think I told you this before, but I'll just give you a reminder. You get your cashmere, but they also send with it, this is really like a nylon. I don't think they call it nylon, but that's basically what it is. This is the stabilizer. Cashmere being so soft that if you didn't have a yarn like that with it, it would really stretch, and it has a wonderful drape, but it would just keep draping. So it makes it kind of unique to work, especially when I was working in some rows, 5 colors at a time. I had my yarn in these little Ziploc bags, and so I was having to constantly untangle my yarn, which I don't find that in Fair Isle, because on Fair Isle you only have, as you may know, 2 colors per row. This I actually had at times 5 colors per row. So that was a lot of yarn in Ziploc bags dangling. So I'm enjoying this, and maybe next episode I'll be further along. It'll depend upon whether I have my next project, how far along I am with it. And I'm going to show you that. I'm having really the best time, if I can find where I laid it over here. I'm making another throw, and this is done in the Fair Isle manner. It's working with Jamieson and Smith, or Jamieson, both. I'm using Jamieson and Smith and Jamieson yarn. So it's all wool. Shetland and some lamb's wool is in the Jamieson and Smith. It is inspired by Kay Fassett, whom I'm just intrigued with his color work, and that inspired me to do something. He has a design that's very similar to this. So I'm knitting this throw in the round, and I'm doing that by making a steek right here, and that of course will be cut open afterwards, and this area here will actually be folded back and become the edging for the long section sides of the throw. On the bottom, I've done this other fun little stripy piece, which will be folded back and tacked down. So the bottom edge of the throw will look like that. On the inside, it will be nice and finished off. And so when I get done, all the edges will be on. I won't have to be sewing on any extra ribbon or picking up stitches and knitting. And so I wanted to try doing a throw this way. On this throw back here, I ended up finishing off the edge by doing just a real simple whip over the edge crochet, and it finished it off really nice. I was going to put ribbon on that, but I couldn't find a ribbon that I really liked with this particular throw. So I thought, well, there's got to be a way to knit an edging while you're knitting the throw. So this is my experiment. I'll let you know. I'm got, I don't know, not quite halfway in length. It'll hang this way. And so it'll be a nice size throw when this is split open. I'll show you what I have my yarn in. So I have a good variety of Jamieson and Smith and Jamieson yarns, and I've put my two colors, this is background, so all the blues are in the background, and then the flower design is in these tones here. And this is not pre-planned. The only pre-planning that I've done is making the blue and green tones in the back. And then I have one row that's the darker flower, and then I tend to go a little bit lighter on the next row and kind of alternate that back and forth. But beyond that, I have not made any plan for what yellow and orange tones I'm going to use next. So when I get one motif done, I go back to my bag and I just start looking at it and kind of comparing a little bit and decide in the moment which colors I'm going to use. And so then there's 3 colors in each one of these flower motifs. And so I'll pick my 3 colors I'm going to work with, and so those are the 3 I have out at the time. And of course then you've got this striping that's going on in the background, and I'm changing that, alternating, not at any specific, some stripes are maybe 5 rows and some maybe 12 rows. And so I just am doing it as I feel inspired, let's put it that way. So trying to be very creative. I've really enjoyed working on this. It's fun, even though the design is really simple. I want a design that I didn't really have to follow a grid closely. I just kind of wanted it mindless knitting from that perspective. So the challenge is working with the colors. And that's been a lot of fun. And I think to really appreciate this is when you can step back and see it as a whole, and how the different colors reflect on each other and how that plays out. And so every part of this throw just changes it as the eye moves. And I do love a design like in this other one that I just completed. It's a repetitive design, but there too I have fewer colors, of course, because this was just all in the beige brown tones and some dark gray tones, but a completely different look. And so this has been a nice fun project to work on, and I want to get it done by June. So that's my goal. So I kind of set everything else aside that I was working on. That's why my sweater that I was working on is set aside, because I really want to get this done. And I think I can, but it's a lot of knitting. And so when I sit down, if I'm watching TV, I do knitting. And this is, like I say, one of those easy projects, really, because I'm not having to follow a grid, so it goes a little bit faster. So that's been really fun for me, and I just hope I have enough of these colors in my stash to finish. If I don't, I know where to buy more of this Jamieson and Smith. In fact, I will tell you here, oh my goodness, probably close to 2 years ago, I stumbled onto it's in New Hampshire, the Woolly Thistle, and they carry mostly wools from the UK, and they're really, really nice. Well, they always carry a nice supply of the Jamieson and Smith, and for color work and working with wool, they're a great resource, and they've got a lot of other really lovely yarns. I've just stayed with the Jamieson and Smith for right now, and Jamieson. They're 2 different companies, because I've got a stash going, and those 2 companies, the yarns blend well together, and they seem to work well. I like to, on some of my projects, like the chickens that I make, I like felting them a bit, and this yarn lets me felt and you can kind of control how much you felt. And I actually, with this throw, I think I'm going to felt it just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. I kind of like that look that when you felt, well, this piece right over here has been felted a lot. It's almost a 1/2 inch thick. And that happened quite by accident, but I liked it, and the dogs like to lay on it too. But there's a blending that happens in color work when you put a little bit of felting into it. So I may do that. I will have enough size, it'll be big enough that I can felt it just a little bit, and it'll just give it a nice halo to the yarn after it is blocked, and then you work on it a bit to do the felting. So that's where I'm at with this little project, not so little. And now I'm getting ready for those of you who love, along with me, knitting our little animal friends. I'm getting ready to do another one of the little animal critters. I'm very excited. She has come out. Louise Crowther has come out with a new pattern book, which it will be released in May. I've already got mine on order, of wild animals such as lions and tigers and zebras, and there's a hippopotamus, which I've not seen a picture of, but I can only imagine. Giraffe, there's an orangutan, not sure how many other, but several wild animals. And so I'm really anxious to get that book. So I'll be knitting some more of these, because that'll be too tempting not to knit some of those up. But there are several in here in this book that I have not done yet. And I was counting up today. I think I've done 15 of these little animals. I have many of them still. I started out knitting them for my great-grandchildren. And at this point in time, I've given to a couple, well, one great-grandchild, and then there's some nieces and great-nieces and nephews that have received some also. But I thought, well, the next one I want to do is the puppy dog. Now, this is a beautiful book. I have kind of destroyed it. I cut it apart. That's the one thing that I have about the construction of this pattern book, and it's beautiful, and her pictures are just so clear and nice. In fact, she won an award in the UK for, I'm not sure the basis on which her award was for, but it was, I think, about the quality and the overall pattern book itself. So that's a big deal for her to have won an award, and I feel kind of ashamed that I actually cut it apart. But it was constructed like this book here, and this is a beautiful book. I won't be cutting this one apart. But when you're trying to follow a pattern, these books don't stay open. So, you know, of course, you take a photocopy, but you can make that work if you're just copying a grid. But if you're having to go back to the pattern, yes, you're making a photocopy and all of that's great. Well, there's too many projects in this book for me to be content with photocopying the whole book. And I actually have downloaded it. It's in my Kindle, and sometimes I work off of my Kindle following the pattern because it's smaller than what the book is. But I cut the book apart, put it in this 3-ring binder, and I have to tell you, it was glued so well together. It was a trip getting it all cut apart. But this makes it, I have notebook paper in here, and it just makes it easy to go to the, yeah, if I can get the pages turned, different sections and follow along. Like this is the section about the body parts. And so I find this really a great way to use this book by cutting it apart. And then actually when it's cut apart, if you do want to photocopy, it makes it easier to photocopy the pages because it lays flat. So I have several ways in which I use this book, but the one of the critters that I have not made yet is the puppy dog. And so I'm going to be making him. We have 2 dogs. I should have made a little dog a long time ago, but you know, these are not dog toys. These are children toys. So kind of wanted to go through my process a little bit because I have really changed the pattern up quite a bit in how I have put it together, and you can go to some of my other episodes, and I've made tutorials, a couple of tutorials on the body parts and how I put the body together and knit in the arms and legs rather than sewing them on. So you can look for those tutorials. I think it's tutorial 8 and 9. They might have an A and a B after them, to see what I have done to change up the pattern. But I had thought with this time around, when I do this critter, that I was going to work on changing up the hand a bit, because when the pattern calls for you to start at the shoulder and knit from the top of the arm down to the bottom, and it has you make this little lump in the hand like what would be a thumb, so it kind of comes out like that with the fingers together, if that makes any sense. You get this little bump right here. I thought surely there's a way to do that when you're knitting that same arm from the bottom up. And actually I worked, I don't know how many hours yesterday thinking, well, I'm going to just knit this backwards from the way the pattern's written. That doesn't work. What I find, and I hope I can explain this well enough for you that are knitting these critters may understand. When you're knitting from the top down, the slope that you get when you do increases for the hand and then you decrease for that little bump, it just comes naturally. But when you're, the way that the stitch lays. But I found, and if you figure this out, let me know, I found from knitting from the cast on for the bottom of the hand and knitting up, that the angle that worked well for the thumb going this way didn't work coming the other way. It doesn't want to lay right, and I haven't quite figured out if that's possible. I could get a lump in there and all of that, but it just didn't look right. And I thought, well, why am I fighting this? I'm just going to stay with my straight little hand, and I'm going to insert a picture here right now and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, here we are. I should have had my little ram out here in the first place. That would have made more sense of what I'm talking about. So this is the ram, and I knitted him this arm from the top down like it's supposed to be, like the pattern calls for. And the pattern, she makes this little nice little bump here to like it was a thumb. So I thought, well, I'm going to try to do that in knitting from the end of the hand straight up. So this is how I've been knitting my little hands. They're just cast on, do increases, no bump. Some of them I've actually embroidered on, little suggestions of maybe some fingers there, but I haven't been really excited about that. I've thought about doing embroidery and, you know, scrunching it down real tight and kind of flatten out that hand, and I could still do that, but I just haven't done it yet, and I'm not sure that I would be happy with that either. So what I was working on yesterday was trying to recreate this kind of a nub or knob on the hand to look more like what she had done. And what I'm not being successful at, I can get this slope here on this side, but to get that tuck in there coming up from this way, so this is some knit twos together and some DCCs or something of that nature, I'm not getting the same tightness here. because I'm having to add stitches to get up to here. You would think it would work, but I haven't been successful. So maybe you will be, and that's, like I say, just for some of us that are wanting to knit in the round, not knit the hand flat, but we're totally doing it in the round. So, you know, I say there's some give and takes, and this is one of the gives, is recreating the hand to have this nub. Now, does it need it? I don't think so. It's clever. It looks nice, no doubt. But maybe one day we'll figure out how to do that casting on here at the end of the hand. And like I said, the reason why we're doing that, casting on here, knitting in the round, then when we get up to the shoulder, we're actually knitting that arm in as we build the body rather than having to sew it on afterwards. And I do the same thing with the legs, is we're knitting them. So my arms and legs are done first and having them all ready so they get knitted into the body. So that's that's my story about not having been successful in changing the pattern to make that shape. So please, if you figure it out, I would love to know and have you share it with us. And if you go over to Facebook, Created by Design, click on to join my group, it'll automatically approve you, and it'd be easy for you to post suggestions and pictures there. So I was going to take you through a little bit of my process of picking colors. I've made enough of these critters now that I change up the pattern in the clothing. I don't want the clothing all to look the same, you know, kind of been there, done that, I've made that, so now I want to see what it looks like, you know, with some other design. So the pattern is great to follow, giving you the basic shape. I don't change that part, but I change up stitches as far as decorative stitches, or adding colors, or making it the shirt longer, or inserting a different cable than what she's used, or put a lace strip instead of a cable. So those are the kinds of things that I change up, and I kind of make that decision as I'm working on each critter. And back here I have two bins. This bin mostly is my bin of yarns for the bodies. So this is my tans and grays, and this is the fuzzy yarn that I used for making the alpaca, which was really kind of fun. So I've got lots of gray in here for body parts. So I'm going to be digging around in here to see what I have. Hopefully I have, that I don't have to buy more yarn for the dog. So I'm hoping I have enough of this darker gray to probably put with, I don't know if I'll do, maybe I'll do a tan and gray puppy dog, because I have quite a bit of this tan right here. And then in this, I have a second bin right here. This is all my yarn for clothes, and I have quite a bit to work with here. So, but it makes it fun. If you've made very many of these critters, you've accumulated a little stash of yarn. So then we begin to do striped dresses or pants to use up some of the yarn that we've accumulated. And I have used this Chic G's, which is from the Netherlands. I think I posted one day that it's from the UK, but it's actually from the Netherlands. This is the river washed, and then I also use the stone washed. And I have to tell you, I really like working with it. It has a little bit blend of cotton and acrylic in it. It is 78 cotton and 22 acrylic. And that just makes a nice yarn to work with on my hands. I have just enough arthritis in my hands that I find 100% cotton is really an unforgiving yarn. There's just no stretch to it, or no give to it, and I find my hands get really tired working on that. But I've purchased also another yarn here, and it's 90%, and I haven't worked with this yet, so I'm this next little puppy dog's probably going to have some breeches out of this color right here, but it's 90% cotton and 10% merino wool, and it's all washable, and it's by, I'll hold the label up here, Valley Yarns. And I don't know if you've worked with this before. It's made in Peru. I'm very anxious to try it, and it feels really, really nice. It's has a much nicer, softer feel than 100% cotton does. And because it's machine washable, should work out well for these little clothes. So I have a pink, I have two pinks, and there was another color around here someplace, which I don't see right at the moment. But I'm anxious to try those colors. So that's going to be, if I make a little boy dog, I'll be using this. If it's a little girl dog, and I don't know yet which one I'm going to make, I'll use this here. But I would love to know what yarns you're using. There again, if you go over to my Facebook site post, or those of you that are on the website for the Knitted Animal Friends, post there what yarns you're using. I should ask the question there and see what yarns everybody is using. Here's another one of the colors that I guess that's the same one. Well, I know there's a third color someplace in here that I just wanted to try. But if it works well, I may get more of that. But I have to use up some of this for clothes first before I allow myself to buy any more yarns. But it's kind of fun to have a stash to work with and pull away a little bit from. The patterns are great. They're great suggestions, but you know, this little dog will be my 16th. And by the time you've done that many, you've got a good gist for the shaping of the clothes and what needs to happen for the arms to fit in the shoulders and how big around the waist. But from there, a person can just start taking a lot of liberties. And you maybe have found the same if you've made very many of these critters. I think, you know, the first ones, follow the pattern, keep your nose in that book so you get a really good understanding of how these little guys go together. I think that's real important, and I think she's done really well in writing these patterns. I certainly did some different stitches, especially up around the head, than what I've ever had to use, because I've done a lot of garments, and so some of the stitches for in the face and stuff are stitches that you wouldn't normally use in garment knitting. So that's been my challenge, is learning some of the, and of course once you've made a critter or two, you've got it down. I haven't made the little coat yet, like what the fox wears. She's got kind of a little challenge, complicated design here in her jacket. I haven't done that yet, but it's really quite a beautiful coat. And I think that's what's drawn me to these little critters, is there is some challenge to it. The detail really, really makes them. There's some cute little knitted and crocheted animals out there on the web, and we've probably all searched and looked at them, but I find the ones that I appreciate the most are the ones that have some really nice detail to them. Kids are going to enjoy playing with any of them, right? But I think for the knitter, we enjoy having some challenge in what we're doing. I would not like to just make the same thing over and over and over again without ever changing up. I think that would get very, very boring pretty quick. I don't know, maybe someday I'll be just content to sit and knit Fair Isle pot holders or something, which has a challenge to it also. But for me, That's what I was drawn to with these little critters, is the detail in them. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate that about our patterns. And I'm excited to see the pattern book that's going to come out in May. May. And I'm, want to get all my other stuff done so I can tear right into one of those. I don't know if I'll have everything done though. Don't know if the Bowsticking sweater will be completely done, but I'll have it done in time to wear this fall for sure. So that's where I'm at in my knitting projects, my creative projects for the last several weeks. I've got some other programs coming up that I'm kind of excited about to share with you. Would love to hear from you, and encourage you again to pop over to Facebook if you're not on my Facebook site, Created by Design, and join us there. And please feel free to ask questions and post. I'd love to see your projects, love to see what you're working on. And I just think there's so much to be said for the creativity, the creative part in each of us, and discovering what that is. And I know I've talked to many people, and some feel like you really don't have a creative side. Well, I believe we do. I think it's discovering what it is and recognizing what it is. It may not be knitting, it may not be crocheting, and it may not be quilting, but there are many other things that we do in life that is an expression of who we are. I've known people in my lifetime that are, they bake cookies and take to people. They do volunteer work. It's an expression of who they are, and I think we all have that. Some have several things that they do. I just encourage you, if you haven't found that in yourself, experiment. Start doing something and see how you like it. I know people that go and volunteer at a food bank, and they've done it for years, and we used to do that also when we could be out and about a bit more. And that is an expression of what's in your heart, helping people. So as we continue on in this new season that we're all in, I don't care where you are in the world, we all have some different life experiences because of the last couple of years and COVID and other things that have gone on around us that have been challenging. I just encourage each one of us to continue to find that thing of how do we bless somebody else? How do we feel fulfilled in ourselves but bless somebody else? I think the best healing for the heart is when we can show a genuine act of kindness to other people. I continue to work on that, and I hope that you're encouraged to do the same thing. So anyhow, that's it for today. I'm sure I'll have something else started. Well, I know I'll have my puppy dog started by the time I make another video. I'm going to have my sister back in a few weeks and show some more creative things that she is doing, and talk to you about another project that I'm thinking about starting that actually has nothing to do with knitting at all. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining me today. Bless you, and hit like if you like this program. Thanks for watching. Bye now.